Do you want to know what it's like to face tank a missile from a Marauder copter boss? Wait, what I meant to say is, do you want to know what it's like to face tank a missile from a Marauder copter boss with glass cannon equipped? Impressed? No? Well, what about being jumped by a group of elites with the same build? What's that? It's easy to face tank damage, but you bet the build can't deal damage? Well, let's see. So that's the pitch, and here's the unique part about my build videos. Firstly, I want to make this video as easy as possible to use, so here are the timestamps for each section which have easy to understand titles. You can also use the chapters below and in the description to jump straight to them. Secondly, at the end of the video I'm going to put on screen a one-page build summary, something like this one, so you can pause, screen grab and then just use it. And thirdly, transparency about what the build is and what it isn't. I created this build to steamroll content solo. It's all about being aggressive and pulling off risky moves. It works for all content in the game, but it excels when fighting elite enemies. You might not top the damage charts, but you'll be alive and finish it all. In the background I'm going to play the final fight against the Rat Queen in Brooklyn, a fight that many players struggled with. Veteran players will have worked out already that this is a build that stacks protection from elites. These reduce incoming damage from elites and named enemies, so including the hunters that we faced in Brooklyn. Yes, this build can solo them pretty easily. There are 3 sources of this included in this build. Firstly, I'm running 4 12% protection from elites mods. Now, 13% mods do exist, but in around 4,000 hours of playing this game, I've never got one. In order to equip 4 mods, I'm running the Chill Out mask, which comes with just 1 attribute but 2 mod slots. This mask is a random drop from the loot goblin. Yes, this cheeky chappie. Now if you don't have one of these, then just run a mask with 1 mod. As we will see later, it won't matter that much. These 4 mods get me to 48% protection from elites. Another 10% then comes from the survivalist specialisation. Do remember to select the right weapon buffs from this specialisation for an easy 15% weapon damage buff. The little trick I'm using to get to the cap is the passive seasonal modifier extra padding, which gives me 5% for every blue core I'm running once I am at tier 5 in stamina. You can probably work out then that I'm running 4 cores to get the 20% I need to sit just below the cap. If you are missing that extra mod, you could go with extra blue cores to make up the difference, but this will be at the expense of some damage output. The obvious shortfall with protection from elites is that it provides no damage mitigation against non-elites. To deal with that, I have built 5% armor regeneration into the build. This comes from 3 pieces of Gilligard, which busts my armor by 5%, health by 60%, and gives me 2% armor regeneration. The other 3% comes from the Memento backpack, which is still the best exotic for solo players. The way this exotic works is that every time I kill an enemy, they drop a kill confirmed trophy. These trophies provide a short-term 10-second buff, and also a long-term 5-minute buff. In order to maintain the long-term buff, I only need to collect a single trophy once every 5 minutes, which is easy solo. The long-term buff delivers the 3% armor regeneration, along with 30% weapon damage and 30% skill efficiency. Most people have no idea how good skill efficiency is. Skill efficiency is a little like weapon handling, but on fucking steroids. It adds skill damage, haste, status effects, repairs, duration, and health, making it the best attribute for any skills. The short-term buff is dependent on the cores that I have on the build. I'm running 3 red cores, which gives me another 15% weapon damage, 1 yellow core for 5% more skill efficiency, and 4 blue cores for 20% bonus armor. This bonus armor can be an absolute lifesaver when the shit hits the fan, giving you a buffer while the armor regeneration kicks in. The way I play this build is to focus on the non-elites first, as the elites don't really do much damage to me. I use a decoy to distract enemies and use cover and the strong armor regeneration if I do take too much damage. Speaking of damage, the weapon I'm using is the Pestilence LMG. This is one of the best exotics in the game, having received great buffs with the title update 22. While its weapon damage is solid, what makes it exceptional is its talent Plague of Outcasts. This applies a debuff to enemies that deals damage over 10 seconds equal to 5000% weapon damage when at max stacks. If the enemy dies, these stacks then jump to a nearby enemy within 25 meters. With this build, the debuff hits for around 900,000 damage a tick, which is more than enough to take non-elite enemies down without even shooting them. You can get the debuff ticks up to over 2 million now with the right builds, but those builds certainly couldn't take even a fraction of the damage this build can. To get to those 900,000 ticks, I am buffing the damage in 5 ways. Firstly, I'm buffing weapon damage through 3 red cores on the build. One of these comes from the Memento backpack, which is the second source of buff, as both its short and long term buffs also buff Pestilence debuff. I'm running one piece of Walker Harris, which comes with a 5% weapon damage brand set bonus, and I'm also running the Name Contractor's gloves, which come with 10% LMG damage. These gloves also come with 8% damage to armour, which does buff the Pestilence debuff, even though damage to health doesn't. I can't explain why, as it doesn't make any sense to me. The final buff to the Pestilence debuffs and to the overall damage output of my build is the Talent Glass Cannon on my chest piece. This talent amplifies all damage I deal by 25%, but does increase the damage I take by 50%. It's a real risk-reward talent. Before we get into the rest of the build, a quick aside. YouTube's algorithm is just fucking weird. Run the same search twice and you'll get different answers, and some videos just don't appear. So hit that subscribe button now, or you might never see another one of my videos again. As I mentioned previously, I'm running the extra padding passive modifier. I'm also running Multitasker, which buffs weapon damage, 85k armour and 1 skill tier. For my final passive modifier, I'm using the tier a day, which adds 10% total health for every tier I have in any attribute, so 150% when all are maxed out. This is one of the reasons why I like running Gilligard on the build, as with its 60% health bonus and this passive, my health is sitting at a whopping 1.1 million, giving me a nice buffer to get to cover in the event that my armour breaks. You might have noticed that I haven't mentioned which active modifier I'm using. That's because I never use it. When used, the active modifiers do deliver significant buffs to the hardcore bonuses of critical hit chance, bonus armour and skill cooldown, and to the passive modifier values. But it also reset all of my tiers back down to their base values after 25 seconds, and that deactivates extra padding and leaves me in a shit ton of trouble. So pick whichever active modifier you like, but then never touch it. If you are struggling with damage output, then you could swap out a tier a day for the best kind of defense. This delivers a juicy 40% buff to headshot damage with this build, which is very nice indeed. In addition to this modifier, there are a few other gear options that you could use with this build. Instead of 3 pieces of Gilligard, you could use 2 pieces of Golem Gear for its 1.5% armor regeneration, and then for the third piece, a DPS based piece. Something like Fox's Prayer knee pads, which comes with 8% damage to targets out of cover. Or you could try the new named knee pads Cloak from the Imminence Armaments brand set. This comes with the same 5% weapon damage buff as the Walker Harris brand set, and also 50% reduced threat, making my decoy even more effective at taking the heat off me. This setup would have less armour and health, so I'd try both and see which works best for you. For my second skill, I'm using the Reviver Hive, but running an assault turret is also a good option. It not only deals damage, which is buffed by Glass Cannon, the damage to armour from Contractor's gloves, and the skill tier from the passive modifier Multitasker. It also serves as another distraction to enemies, giving me time to burn them down. So here is the full build with all of the gear's attributes, essentially critical hit chance and critical hit damage wherever I can. My secondary weapon is the new Huntsman AR, which comes from completing all of the Brooklyn Hunters, and for which I'll have a build up on the channel very soon.